Welcome to my shed. Here we are again, another week done. This is In, On and Gone 61, and this one is entitled All About a Classic Brand of Trainer. Okay, the Adidas Gazelle. Okay, what an iconic masterpiece. Back in demand now because of the Oasis revival, and well, you could say that, but really they've always been in demand. If ever you get your hands on a pair of these trainers and they're in good condition, they are worth putting on. Okay, I would say to you that if you can source them for under a tenner and they're in good condition and you take some good photos of them, you'll probably make some money. My name's James Smith and I run channel JR74, which is predominantly at the moment all about eBay and eBay reselling, and finding things to flip on probably the world's biggest selling platform. I think I did a bit of a survey recently and there's over 130 million members on this thing. Yeah, for me at the moment, it's working quite well. So these In, On and Gone videos, I tell you what's coming into my store, I tell you what's on my store, and I also tell you what has gone from my store. Okay, the on is easy. Look at the link below, peruse through the shop to your heart's content. Yeah, so we're going to go into what has gone from the store this week, split into two sections as per usual. Stuff that's gone quickly, and the Gazelles are part of that. Stuff that's gone a little bit more slowly, and then I'll go on to what is coming into the store. Yeah, so without any further ado, I hope you can hear me, by the way. I've had some comments about the sound on this video, and I have done some videos outside, and the sound wasn't particularly good on them, so I think I'll just always come back in the shed no matter what the temperature is outside. When it's cold, it's a good place to be. When it's warm, God, you lose half a stone in this place. It doesn't half warm up quick. But I've tried some lavalier microphones and I've tried some wired, and all the research that I've done have basically said that the phone that I'm shooting this on, which is an iPhone 16, has got a damn good microphone in it anyway. So yeah, if you've got any sound issues, please let me know in the comments. But let's crack on, shall we? Let's have a look at these Gazelles. Yeah, so this wasn't the biggest profit that I made this week, but these Gazelles were just typical black and white ones, and I sourced them for £9.17. Yeah, that's probably at the top end of the sourcing level. You can pick them up for less than that, but it is quite rare. If you go on Vinted to get a pair that are in relatively good condition, which is what I did here, paying £9.17 is quite a good deal. It's quite a good deal that I got on these, and I sold them for £20.60. £14.26 back after eBay fees and postage. God, I forgot what I was talking about there. And then if you take the £9.17 off that £14.26, you're left with £5.09 profit. Okay, and that is 55%. So yeah, pleased with that. Okay, it's not 155%, it's 55% profit. Okay, because I got back, as I said, the £14.26. Okay, so if I only got £9.17 back and the shoes only cost me £9.17, I would have made zero profit. Zero. Okay, I've had some comments relating to the way that I work these out, but I'm hoping that I'm making it quite clear now. I got back £14.26, okay, which is £5.09 more than the £9.17 that I paid. Okay, so taking that as a percentage going up, all right, with zero being the starting point of my profits, where I break even, where I go into profit, it is 55%. It's not 155%. Okay, so anyway, that's the way that I do my costings on this. All right, and I always aim for between 50 and 100%. So these were nice. But they weren't the best quick flip. They weren't the best. I had 4 things that sold within a week this week, okay? So the best one was an Orvis linen shirt. Now, Orvis is a very, very popular outdoor... It's like a brand that's heavily associated with hiking and fishing. Very American outdoor pursuits, hunting and fishing. That sort of attitude goes with Orvis, the brand. And one thing that I've noticed about Orvis is that their products sell very, very well. I mean, this is a strong brand, a strong material for this time of year. It's a linen shirt, all right, and linen sells fantastically well in the summer. But the thing is, you haven't really got any branding on the shirt itself. There isn't like a little logo or anything like that. It is just a plain shirt, but they do sell very, very quickly. This was a decent pickup. I picked this shirt up for £4 and I sold it for £15.60. All right, that gave me £10.26 back after eBay fees and postage, which was £6.26 profit. That gives me 158%, okay, because it's more than £4. All right, so I got the £4 back, but I also got an extra £6.58 on top of that £4, so that is 158%. Remember, where I break even, the 0 is. That's the way that I do it. Okay, so the Orvis linen shirt, Orvis, fantastic brand, will usually sell quite quickly, especially if it's in good condition and well photographed. Next up, and my last week's video was about the fact that autumn sales and summer sales are coming at the same time at the moment. We're beginning to see some autumn products being sold, and I have sold this week very, very quickly a lovely Jules padded gilet. Okay, the sort of stuff that you could sort of like wear out in the garden, or even in the summer. It would be a fantastic thing to put on if you're having a barbecue outside, and the evenings do get a bit chilly sometimes, don't they, in the summer? So put one of these on, you'll be toast, absolute warm as toast. Decent size, lovely gilet, nice deep burgundy red, sold very, very quickly. And I got some good comment back on it as well. So anyway, it was again £4, sold it for £13.60, £8.28 back, £4.28 profit, which equates to 107%. All right, lovely, lovely, lovely. It is Saturday night, actually. I'm in the shed on a Saturday night, so, you know, I always have something just to wet the old whistle when I'm talking, and it's a Saturday. So, yeah, we can have a glass of the red stuff. Nice Rioja there. Now, the last but not least quick seller was again the linen. Again, a pair of Marks and Spencer's linen trousers. These are such strong sellers if you can get your hands on them. And I got my hands on these nice almond ones, which is basically a little bit off-white, for, again, £4, and sold them for £12. Okay, £7.18 back, £3.18 profit, 79%. So all 4 of those quick sellers fell into my target bracket. So yeah, really pleased with those, this week. But of course, it's not just quick sales that I make. There's also some ones that are a little bit slower, take a little bit longer. You know, you can see everything here. Okay, this isn't a week's worth of stuff. Far from it. Right, let's go into what else sold, shall we? Right. This next one I'm going to tell you about is a good example of why you should specialise in stuff that you know about. Me personally, I'm quite an active person. Did a park run this morning. You know, I like my sport. I like being outdoors. It's stuff that I'm aware of and stuff that I know about. So cycling, I've been on a bike, okay? And I've been on my bike to a level where I've actually clipped my feet onto the pedals with those special cleats that you can get on the cycling shoes. Basically what this is, for those that don't know, is if you ever see a top cycling event such as like the Tour de France or the Giro d'Italia, the people that you see on those bikes, their feet are attached to the pedals. What you've got to do is you've got to basically flick your heel out to detach your foot from that pedal. Why? You might be thinking to yourself, why the hell would you attach your feet to the pedal? Because it's far more difficult to take your foot off the pedal. So if you're coming down to stop, you don't just take your foot off the pedal as though you would be if you're riding, say, like a BMX bike in the 1980s. No, you've got to flick your heel out. And but this is because when you're pushing down on the pedal, yeah, you're putting power into the chain. But when you are pulling up on the pedal, or when your foot is coming up on the pedal, if it's not attached to it, there's no energy there at all. There's nothing going into the chain. It's all from the downstroke. But if you attach your foot to the pedal, then there's energy coming into the chain on the upstroke as well. And believe me, it is a total energy saver if you're doing long distance bike rides. Anyway, sorry, it's getting a bit long-winded, isn't it? I'm just talking about the physics of the power that goes into the chain on the bike. But I know about this stuff. And this lady sent me a message saying, right, I'm interested in these Diadora cycling shoes. They're a lovely pair of cycling shoes, really nice condition. And she said, I've got these pedals. And she showed me a pair of, and she took a photo of a pair of SPD pedals that the clips go into. And so I said, right, okay, I know about this. So what I did is I sent back a picture of the type of clips that she needs to fit that pedal, and gave her a little cheeky offer on the shoes that she was looking at. Because these Diadoras I had sourced for £2. All right, and I sold them for £13.50 or £13.59. So I gave her an offer of £9.99 and she took it. All right, so that's great. All right, messaging, knowing about your stuff and messaging your buyers. Some people, if they get a message about a product, it annoys them. Oh, I've put everything on eBay. You know, just look at that. Surely you can work it out from there. No, 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 no. Okay, that's 5 no's. It's a big no. If somebody messages you about a product, it is a huge opportunity for you to make a sale, for you to connect with that buyer, give them what they want, make them a little offer, tell them how good the product is, and hopefully wait there for something to happen. All right. So the more you know about the product, the better it is. Now, I've just had something coming through. Somebody's offered 20 quid for a pair of Adidas Astro Boots. I've just seen that coming on my phone just there. Right, look at the camera, Smithy, not at the screen. Come on. All right. So anyway, I messaged this lady, and yeah, she came back and paid, and I got £7.7 back on those after fees, after postage, all right, which was £5.07 profit, which actually equates to 253%. So that is a fantastic sale. There are some places that you can source goods from where they don't really know the value of what they have. And that's what makes this whole game just so fun, so interesting, so enjoyable. Because what you're trying to do is you are comparing the value that they have put onto your product with the knowledge that you have up here, and thinking to yourself, oh, I can sell it for more than that. All right, that's what all of this is. So that's why you've got to be so knowledgeable about brands and about what sells well, and looking back at your data to tell you what sells well. That is monumentally important. Next up, a pair of speakers from that laptop that I dismantled. Yep, some of that stuff is still selling. So it was a pair of speakers that I valued at £2 and sold for £8. All right. After postage and fees taken off. Now, the postage on this was a lot lower than normal because these speakers were very, very thin and could easily fit into a large letter. All right. There are 2 sizes of letter. A standard letter has got to be 0.5 millimeters thick. So that's just a piece of paper. That's like just a classic traditional letter. But a large letter can be up to 2.5 centimeters thick. and these speakers easily fit into that width. So I could sell them as a large letter, which only costs 87 pence compared to a small parcel, which is currently round about £3. All right, so you do make a little bit of a saving on the postage there. But I offered this postage for free, and that's one of the reasons why, because I knew you wouldn't have to pay that much for it. Yeah, £5.59 back, £3.59 profit, 179%. Okay, so yeah, pleased with that, above my target. Now, in terms of this laptop that I bought, okay, and took apart, there's 6 items left to sell on it. All right, I paid £48.31. I've got £33 back. And from the valuations that I gave each and every component, at the moment, I'm in profit by £12.27. Okay, so part of the things that are still waiting to be sold, I've actually valued quite highly. So maybe I'll look at the price of them and drop the price a little bit. I think it's the palm rest, it's the tracking pad. All right, I've seen those on for between £10 and £12. But if I drop it down a little bit now, and we'll see if we can get into some proper profit, not just estimated profit on this. Okay, so interesting. Okay, I've had it all on now for about 2 months. So I've nearly broken even on after 2 months of putting this laptop on. Next up, another pair of Astro Boots. These are great sellers, and these were a nice pair of Adidas Primesh Astro Boots. And these ones, you can see, are pretty decent. Okay, how can you tell they're pretty decent? Number one, they've got the higher ankle. There are some people that quite like that higher ankle. And number two, if you look at the front, hopefully by now I would have shown you the photograph. The front of the boot is ridged. It's got like little ridges on. And those of you from the 1980s that remember the Adidas Predator football boots coming out will know that these ridges sometimes are actually, you know, I never had a pair. But there were some lads in the school that did. And they said, oh, yeah, I can make it spin both ways when I kick the ball. We never saw it. Never saw it at all. But, yeah, so any sort of like addition to these football boots does work and does work quite well. So, yeah, that was a good sale. A good sale. Where are we talking here? £4 I paid for them. And £15.60 was the amount offered, £8.77 back, £4.77 profit, 119%. Woo! Pleased. Another strong brand to tell you about, this brand being Hush Puppies, but these took a little bit longer to sell. These were a nice pair of men's loafers, but they have been hanging around for between 6 and 9 months, and I paid £8 for them. That's a bit high. Try and get to round about the £5 range, but £8 I paid for them, and I still made a little bit on. £15.60 I sold them for, £9.89 back, £1.89 profit, 23%. So yeah, just over a quid profit. So not the best, not the biggest, and it took quite a bit of time to sell. So if you get stuff like this, it will sell. Okay, but what I'm looking at doing is volume. Stuff that I know is going to sell within the 12 months, and just try and get as much of it in to sell at a profit. And most of my stuff sells at a profit. Everything that I've sold this week that I've told you about has sold for a profit. So, yeah. Not everything, though, because I'm about to tell you about something that didn't sell for a profit, but it was just an attempt by me in terms of trying to get into the women's long boot market, which slightly backfired. Yeah, these were a pair of Mechs knee-length boots, and I'd seen this brand around, and I put it as sort of like a mid-range brand, and I paid £10 for these. But then somebody eventually came in with an offer. They have been on for quite some time. But again, you could argue that this is a product that shows the autumn stuff is being purchased now. This was £12.60 somebody paid for it, and I paid a tenner for it. I took the offer at £12.60. I knew that I wasn't going to make anything. But I just thought, well, just get the money back and just reinvest it in something else. £7.13 back, which is a loss of £2.87, which is 28% down. So yeah, that one didn't work. Why didn't it work? I paid too much money for it. Have I bought a pair of ladies' boots like this before? No. Should I have got it at a £5? Yes. Okay, so I now know a tenner for these sort of products is too much. Learn from your mistakes. Okay, it's okay to try as long as you don't keep doing it. All right. Now, so that is all of the gone stuff. Okay. This week I've been doing quite a bit of sourcing. And I've picked up a few clothes. I've picked up another nice pair of cycling shoes, a pair of Giro cycling shoes. And with the cycling shoes, these had cleats on. So what you can do is actually separate the cleats off, clean them up a bit and sell the cleats separately. And that's what I'm intent on doing with this. So what I mean by cleats, if you pick up a pair of cycling shoes and something is attached to the bottom, usually in a hexagonal bolt, take those off and Google Lens them to find out exactly what type of cleat they are and sell them separately. You will get more by selling them separately than selling them all together as one, because there's a lot of people who buy cycling shoes who already have cleats that they can take off another pair and put onto the pair that they are buying off you. So I would separate them, definitely. Now, another thing that I'm going to tell you about now is comments. Okay, you can always tell if you're doing well with the sort of comments that people are leaving you, and whether it's positive, whether it's neutral, or whether it's negative. And yeah, so let's have a look at some of my comments, shall we? Yeah, comments. The positive, negative things that can be left as by the buyers as a note to you after you have sold the product. A little bit of feedback for you. You get a point for every piece of feedback that you receive, okay, and then that affects the colour of your star. I think now I'm over 1,000, and the colour of my star won't change now until I've got 10,000. So I used to sort of like be thinking to myself, yeah, got to get to the 500, got to get to the 1,000. But I think once you're at the 1,000 and your star goes this colour, I think it's red. I can't remember. But I think that sort of star colour then does give a little bit more confidence to the people buying off you, and they can look at the comments that you have received. Now, I do look at them, because if you don't, you're not really taking feedback into account. So you've got to do that. You've got to do it. But so far, all right, and this is today. I finished the previous part of this video, okay, and then I've been to my computer and actually had a look at my positive, my neutrals, and my negative. Positive, 497. Neutral, 3. Negative, 1. Positives. And this was a comment left for the Jules gilet that I just told you about. Lovely panel. The colour of this Jules gilet will be perfect for cooler months. Good communication with seller. Thank you. And that communication was because she didn't want it sent every. And I said, yep, okay, fine. I'll send it raw mail. Yeah, it cost me a little bit more, but hey, you know, it gets you the good feedback, good communication with seller. These sorts of words are pretty priceless. You can't type them in yourself. Okay. Another one, and this was for a Lavazza milk frother. Milk frothers are very, very good things to sell if you get your hands on them. They usually are priced quite low, and they go for northwards of 20 quid. Arrived well packaged and in good condition. Good replacement unit for us, as they're no longer made by Lavazza. Good communication with the seller. Would definitely buy again from them. Thanks. That's good feedback. All right. And I think the packaging thing is a good thing for you to be aware of. If ever you were selling anything electronic, make sure you've got a decent sized box for it. And also make sure that it's packaged well. I usually find a box within a box works, but I've also got some old newspaper that I just screw into balls and pack around the product. That usually works quite well. Yeah, so good. I was pleased with that. Fast delivery and easy to deal with, and it's happy to take offers under the value of the price. Yeah, well, that's what eBay's all about, really. But okay, I'll take that one. So yeah, the positive, you know, that's just an example of some of the positive comments that I've received. What was that? You want the neutrals and negatives as well? Oh, go on then. Let's have a look at them, shall we? Right, so there's 3 neutrals. All right, 3 neutrals. And it's always worth looking at them. First one, item was described as used, very good condition. Condition is used, but certainly not very good condition. So I had some neutral feedback there. Now, okay, I'll take that one on the chin. But to me, I will always put very good condition on a t-shirt. This was an Under Armour t-shirt. If no rips, no tears, in shape, hasn't lost shape, label on the back, if it's printed, all the words are still there, none of the words have faded off, and no bobbling. This t-shirt had all of them. And also the logo wasn't coming off as well. So to me, that is a t-shirt in very good condition. Maybe he was wanting sort of like the crispness that you get with a virtually new t-shirt. I don't know. But look, you can't please everybody. And that is one thing that you are going to learn when doing this game. Okay. Right. Another piece of negative feedback. Didn't work, but was refunded. Well, I refunded you. This was a Nintendo controller. And sometimes you need to reset the Nintendo to make them work. And I got it back. He did send it back and I tried it and it was working on mine. So I did message him like saying, look, did you try shall I send it back to you and just try resetting the machine? But he said, no, it's all right. I've got another one. And I sold that again and I had no complaints this time. So really what I wish that he would have let me know what the problem was and had a bit of dialogue with him, because I would have said to him, reset your machine and try it again. But if it doesn't work and they've raised a refund and you get it back, you have to refund. You have to. Okay, if you don't, then you will get some seriously negative feedback and the sort of feedback that you don't want. And the last one, the last neutral was, I never received the item. Now, I responded to this because you can respond. And I put underneath, I put copy of notes sent to buyer. And I went on to say this, you recently left feedback claiming that this item was not received. It is showing as delivered at my end, and this info is usually pretty accurate. It has not been wrong since I started Channel JR74 in April 2022. If you cannot find it anywhere, please get in touch with eBay for resolution by raising a refund request. Thanks, James. That's what I left to a customer saying that they never received the item. I put the ball firmly back in their court, and it's also for all to see as well. So you can see that neutral feedback that somebody has left, and you can see that little comment underneath that I have written. Yeah, and I didn't hear anything from him. There was no refund request raised. So, yeah, maybe he did find it. Would have been nice if he would have let me know. Anyway, this is what I mean. Look, 497 positive, 3 neutral, 1 negative. You are never, ever, 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 ever going to get 49700. There will always be some sort of disgruntled customer or somebody that doesn't quite agree with you. I'm saying never, never, never. You may. But, yeah, it's something that I'm aiming for. All right. Now, the negative. These were a pair of Adidas low trainers that brand new would retail for about 60 to 70 quid. These weren't brand new, these were used, and they were in okay condition. All of the stitching was there, okay? There was no rips, there was no tears, there was no rips in the leather. The soles were also in decent condition as well. There was not much wear on them. In terms of there were no real worn out patches, and there were certainly no sort of like indentations or splits in the sole. So I usually put these on with the idea that maybe somebody might want a pair of shoes for decorating in or something like that. And I put them on, and you know, the photo, to me, the photographs clearly showed the condition that these shoes were in. I had cleaned them up a bit. They weren't fantastic, but they weren't terrible either. They would just look like a worn pair of shoes. However, somebody from Germany bought them on the global shipping program. I don't think they looked at the photographs. I think they were expecting a pair of trainers that were obviously in much better condition. But it surprised me because I thought the photograph showed what condition they were in, and I was letting a pair of trainers go that would normally be 60 quid brand new for less than a tenner. Anyway, normally a worn out sneaker like this belongs in the used clothing bin and not for sale here. So in Germany, we throw such shoes away. In England, it seems to be normal to turn junk into cash. Okay, right. Now, thing is, she didn't raise a refund request. Or maybe, you know, she is going to have to return it from Germany. So economically, it's not really quite worth doing. I do understand that. But if you're going to buy something on the GSP, on the global shipping program, you've got to look at the photographs. And I believe that the photographs fully reflected the condition that these trainers were in. As I said, it wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't terrible either. They just looked like a pair of well-worn trainers. Right. What do you do? Because I don't know, she might have just been writing this and she might still be wearing them. She might not have thrown them away. I don't know. She hasn't let me know. This could be, there's a lot of scams where somebody puts something like this and basically puts the onus on the seller to basically say, oh, I'm so sorry. Right, here, have a refund. Okay, I know that you're in Germany and I know you're far away, so there's no point in sending them back because it's going to cost you. Okay, here, just have this as a refund if you're not. And then they end up with a free pair of trainers. Yeah, this was a difficult one. Didn't really, it wasn't difficult as it's going to strain Anglo-Deutschland relations or anything like that. But I did, in the end, just ignore it. That's what I did. Because I felt that the quality of the trainers, I couldn't quite understand why she was annoyed, because I felt that the condition of the trainers was fully reflected in the photographs. And sometimes these slightly beaten up trainers, as I said, if somebody's just looking for a pair of trainers to do a bit of gardening in or do a bit of decorating in, they buy them, and that's what they're there for. I was actually quite surprised to see them go on the GSP, but hey, you know, I'm not gonna stop or quibble with that. So yeah, I'm not losing sleep about that one. You know, to me, the buyer should have looked at the photographs far more diligently than what she actually did. Yeah. What do you think? Put it in the comments. Anyway. That's it. All right, that's it. That's it for this week. Gonna take a bit of a break from the videos, just for a few weeks, because I think I've been doing 2 a week now for almost a year. That's quite heavy going. Yeah, it's quite heavy going. I enjoy doing them. And I really enjoy bringing you into my shed and talking about the stuff that I've sold, and hopefully educating you so that you know what sells well and what doesn't sell so well. But yeah, I'm going to take a week off this week coming. All right. So In, On and Gone 62 will hopefully be released in Sunday in 2 weeks' time. Okay. Anyway, until then, farewell. And yeah, have a look at your comments.